Welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. This is Steve coming to you this week from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I have traveled to celebrate Thanksgiving with my in-laws. And this is a holiday where we at least claim to celebrate gratitude, to think about gratitude. And in reality, we often focus on buying crap for Christmas. But I would like to reflect that this year I am very grateful for my family, my son, who is a bit of a hellraiser, but a bright little boy, an awesome spot in my life. My wife, who keeps the family together, keeps me going, as well as you, the listener, for making this podcast what it is. What I mean by that is it wouldn't be here if no one was listening. So, and thank you for your feedback that lets me know that what I do means something to some people. That gives my life some direction. Even though the Stoics say we shouldn't rely on externals, it does give me a level of satisfaction. This week, we're going to hear from Marcus Aurelius, 3 different readings, where he's going to remind himself of a couple of very important things. One, that we should use the power of reason, that we always have the power to deal with what's happening if we use the power of reason. He also mentions that externals cannot control us unless we let them, and that also that humans are, once again, he says this all the time, we're here to be one with other humans. We're here to be a society. But he also gives himself advice as to what to do when dealing with people that he can't cooperate with at this time. What should he do in those cases? And so he's writing about these themes, reminding himself of what is important, something that we should do daily or at least weekly or so to reflect in our journals about our progress as Stoics. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 5, number 18.
There is nothing that happens to any person but what was in his power to go through with. Some people have had very severe trials, and yet, either by having less understanding or more pride than ordinary, have charged bravely through the misfortune and come off without a scratch. Now it is a disgrace to let ignorance and vanity do more with us than prudence and principle.
Number 19.
Outward objects cannot take hold of the soul, nor force their passage into her, nor set any of her wheels going. No, the impression comes from herself, and it is her own motions which affect her. As for the contingencies of fortune, they are either great or little, according to the opinion she has of her own strength.
Number 20.
When we consider we are bound to be serviceable to mankind and bear with their faults, we shall perceive that there is a common tie of nature and relation between us. But when we see people grow troublesome and disturb us in our business, here we are to look upon men as indifferent sort of things, no less than sun or wind, or a wild beast. It is true, they may hinder me in the executing part, but all this is of no moment while my inclinations and good intention stand firm. For these can act according to the condition and change. For the mind converts and changes every hindrance into help, and thus it is probable I may gain by the opposition, and let the obstacle help me on my road.
In the first reading, Marcus is reminding himself that there's nothing that happens that we don't have the power to deal with. Epictetus says a lot of similar things, that wherever there's a struggle, there we shall find the virtue for dealing with that struggle, patience, self-control, and so forth. And then he says something that's very much like Seneca. Seneca reminds us a lot of times that, hey, if someone can do these great things out of fear or out of lack of virtue, then we surely can do them with virtue. Virtue should be stronger than fear or anger. And he says people have done many great things sometimes because they don't know what's happening, or they're very prideful and they don't want to look scared, so on and so forth. And they come through hard situations without a scratch. And like Seneca says, it's a disgrace to rely on these basal, like animal instincts, instead of prudence and principle when dealing with life. We should be able to get through life with the same dignity or the same calm or the same at least appearance of courage and wisdom as someone who doesn't have them but gets through a situation anyway. If we have these virtues, then we should be able to do these things and do them well and repeatedly. The second reading, he mentions that outward objects cannot take hold of the soul. So the soul is your inner way of knowing. It's your mind, and it's sort of unaffected. It theoretically can be unaffected by the outside world. So only when you assent to impressions do you let the outside world touch your soul, into your brain, into your mind, to affect you. And so he says the impressions come from herself. So once again, an outside event occurs. It's the story you tell yourself that actually affects you. And then as for the contingencies of fortune, it's really up to how they are judged as to whether they are big or of little consequence. It's up to the narratives that you construct, your mind constructs, as to how they will affect you. Meanwhile, the third reading, once again, Marcus had to deal with a lot of crap. He's emperor, right? So here he's reminding himself once again, okay, you got to deal with people. It's your job. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. But, he says, what happens when people are troublesome and they disturb us and our business? They kind of get in our way. Now we have to shift. Rather than saying, well, I have to work with you. I have to work with you. Well, now you can look upon that person as an indifferent, like a force of nature, as a chance event. They are an indifferent. What I mean by that is they are something you have to deal with, but you have no control over. And you have to figure out how to deal with the situation in such a way as to convert this hindrance into a benefit. Let the obstacle become the way, as modern Stoics love to say. And therefore, because of this incident, you might be able to gain from it. What do you mean by gain from it? Well, maybe you'll actually come out materially on top. But otherwise, you will have developed more character, more patience, more self-control. He says, I may gain by this opposition, and this obstacle will help me on my road. As I like to compare, and many others do as well, Stoicism to a road. I like to think of it a pathway leading up a mountain. And sometimes we'd run into very difficult climbs. But when we're over with that climb, we're that much higher. We're that much closer to the peak. And we're stronger now, and we're more intelligent now. And we can deal with obstacles, even greater obstacles that arise because we have gone over, under, or through this previous obstacle. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Remember, we're here to work with people, but we can also just do our best to make the best of bad situations when we have to. And bad things are only bad if you tell yourself they are bad. And at the same time, we can conquer all things with love and with reason. Once again, I'm grateful to all you for listening. I'm grateful to this philosophy, which helps me to learn self-control. I'm slow at it, but I'm learning. Helps me to grow and provides a form of kind of natural spirituality, which I find very calming and beautiful in the study of this ancient philosophy of Stoicism. I hope you enjoy it as well, and I hope you'll put it into practice. Email me if you want to let me know how you are doing, how your practice is going. If you have any Stoic practice advice, we talk a lot about what the ancients wrote. I'd love to find out how you are living your life and using this philosophy. If you want to do that, it's sundaystoic@gmail.com. And until then, don't forget to seize the day. Carpe diem.